Rev It Up Racing has rapidly expanded its depth by producing quality content with your #1 coverage in Michigan and Ontario. And so, we have added Rev It Up Racing Radio to our racing media platform. Rev It Up Racing Radio is your short track racing grassroots coverage in late model, modified, ABC stock car, street stock, and 4-cylinder divisions. Listen weekly for short track news, rankings, schedules, and driver interviews.
We're here June 21st, trackside in the pits at Kinross Speedpark in Kinross, Michigan, with Gerry Liscumb Jr., the Public Relations and Operations Director for Kinross, Bill Cryderman, Flagman at Kinross, and the one and only Terry Joss, who's the Technical Director of Kinross. We are here under cloudy skies with tests and tunes with a few cars preparing for June 25th race at Kinross, and hope you enjoyed the show.
Racing Radio, how are you today, Billy?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. You've been working in short track racing for many years. The first thing is, how did you get into it?
Well, I think it was 1999 or so. Denny Aho, I was hanging with him and Tim Aho a little bit, and I built an enduro car to race out here, and we ran some 250-lap enduros with it and just kind of got hooked from there.
And now, like, say, you being up in the flag stand, that's what's so special about Kinross for you?
Kinross is home, I guess, if I can just sum it up that way. That's home. I raced here from 99, all the way through, and then I ended up having some major back issues. I ended up with 3 back surgeries after I broke my back, and it was time for me to get out of the car. And after a couple years after that, I was still fielding a couple of cars for some buddies of mine. And then finally, I just got out of it totally, the racing end of it. And, me and Gerry and Terry have been friends forever. So just natural progression was to keep involved.
Now, like I say, with the technology and everything is today, even in short track racing, what's the big, with the growth and everything with the cars and drivers, and with you being flagman, with them treating each other on the track, it's how do you deal with that?
Well, respect, right? And when I was racing, I'm not going to lie to you at all. There was a few times that I was probably not the most respectful guy on the racetrack, but doing that and part of it is I got to notice my feelings and how I felt about racing, and it's a general passion, right? So I always tell the guys, race like you want to be raced. Respect is earned. It's not a given. So, and we have some pretty good racers here that know that stuff, right?
And that's the same as, like, say, before we started, we were talking about the race in Berlin last night down in Michigan. And like you say, Busch was there, and he didn't win. But at the same time, he was dealing with guys who race weekends compared to him coming off a NASCAR race. So when it comes to that, is with guys, weekend warriors, I guess we call them, where they don't have millions of dollars. So you don't want your car banged up. You want to treat the guy the same way, right?
Yeah, for sure. The best thing to do is to race. Everybody wants to win, of course, but you want to take your car home in one piece so you don't have to rebuild it over the course of the next week or two to come back and race again. And that's just a lot of respect, a little give and take. Kinross itself promotes side-by-side racing, just the way it was built and how wide it is. So it's easy to run side-by-side and not touch anybody for lap upon lap, So that's cool about our racetrack.
And we're sitting here right in the pits right now doing this, and we're going to be doing with Terry Joss, who's the technical director. And I know guys, and it's not just short, it's sports overall today, but guys are writing the fine lines of the rules. And the pits are small and everything else, but I use, when they get onto the track and rule-wise, is everybody staying above board, you think?
Well, the rules, the technical end of the rules, that's more for Terry's end. I always say that I control it once they get past the yellow line. And, I'm not super firm because I know racers got to race. But, you got to respect the guys you're around. And it's, we keep a pretty good handle on what they're doing out there, right? So
exactly. And now the thing is that I'm going to ask you is about what's the most exciting thing you've had while you've been at Kinross, but I think other than the biggest thing to me and me having boys is your son's up there now learning from you. So other than that being quite exciting, what is?
Yeah, that's huge for me. Probably outside of that little thing that me and Brendan are doing together now, one of the biggest things for me here was my dad. I raced a car, and I always told everybody here, and I know if you asked Terry and Jerry the same question about me was, I just drove that car to the winner's circle. My dad built that car. He maintained it. I just drove the thing. And, and between me, Josh Ware drove our cars, Dan Schumberger, Barry Goki, Todd Jackson piloted our car for a while. Anybody that got into them cars would win with them, right? Or run real well. So for me, the best thing that ever happened to me here was just that, being with my dad and doing something with my father. And, I think that's what we try and instill here, too, is more of a family environment, right?
And that's something we mentioned, Brandon, is he has no ambition to get in the car?
When Brendan was 4 years old, I bought him a go-kart, and they were racing karts here at the time. He scared himself a little bit, and I still think that that really puts in a little bit of fear in his mind, even from a 4-year-old. But Brendan is on a different track in life. Brendan is already committed to go to the U.S. Army. Brendan is a 4.0 student at school. This is just something that I can do with him. Well, I got 2 more years with him, right? And he really enjoys being on the flag stand. He enjoys the people, which is cool. And it's really nice to be able to give that back to him, because he can go anywhere now where he gets stationed in the Army or whatnot. He can go anywhere and go to a local track, and he at least knows how it functions, right?
And that's the biggest thing. You keep on going back to where, again, we're sitting in the pits. It's family where we have, and we're looking at empty pits tonight, the Test and Tune, but you have the Grays, you have the Hymanens, you have the Almonds, we can go Toms, we can go on and on and on. And that's one thing about Kinross. It's quite family-oriented when it comes to the pits. Families helping out each other out, eh?
Yeah, I got to say this. I had a lot of friends when I started racing here. Now I have family, and that's the difference. And me and Jerry, I always say that we're brothers from another mother. And that's one of the things we always say about each other. We've started as friendship, and now it has progressed into almost a family. And there's a core group of 15 or 20 here that are super close family, but all of them ones that you just mentioned, I think the world of the Grays and the Ahos and and everybody that's really here. But some of them people, and Todd Jackson has been a big influence in what I did when I was a racer, and helped me through a lot of things. And Jerry Artuzo, and that comes from the snowmobile race side too, right? So that's kind of cool to have all them people still with me.
Now, and you mentioned like snowmobile. We're sitting at Kinross here in June, but you also do quite a bit with the I-500 now. Do you do the flag down there too, or you more? I know you spend hours and hours building the track, but what else do you do with the I-500?
Well, the I-500, I'm not a flag man. The I-500, I'm the race director there, so kind of run most of everything that's on track. We have a great group of people that do all our flagging and stuff for us, but when it all comes down to it, I'm kind of I can't say the boss or anything, but I'm the go-to guy, I would say, because I don't treat anybody like I'm a boss. That's not the way we do it. We're all volunteers for the same goal, and and it's a good time. And me and Terry, Joss, that's where we kind of met each other, was through that sort of thing. And now me and Terry spend all summer here and all winter there together. So it's really cool.
So you spend, like you say, you probably spend more time with him than you do your wife half the time.
Well, I'm not married anymore. So
is that why?
Well, probably part of it was I spent a lot of time doing some race stuff, right? But I got to go back to Brendan a little bit. My son, it's huge to see the family growth, right? Brendan's really getting into it, and my girlfriend Jen, her son Trevor, now he is big time into it with Paul and Mike Fox, the owners of this place. So he's with them guys a lot, and that's really cool to see that. And I made a little mention of that in our awards banquet there a few weeks back, that it's just nice to see that stuff, And
it goes back even with racers, with to bring up like Jigga Hyman, who's in his like late teens, and Megan Hayes and Anthony Manarino, who's only 14 years old, is even with when it comes to your son, is we need that young youth to help with the sport, right?
I always say, and this comes from the I-500 more than here, but I always say you got to train your replacement, right? And that's truthfully what it is. We're all, us guys are all, 40s, 50s, and eventually we're going to want to be sitting in the grandstands, watching this show when we have our replacements out there doing the work, right?
But honestly, I know Brendan, he plays football, right?
Yeah, Brendan plays football. He's also a wrestler, and that really takes up a lot of his time. He's really dedicated to that stuff. We're sitting here right now at 6 o'clock, and Brendan is with a personal trainer in the gym right now. Yeah. I mean, that's just what he does. That's, that's where his focus is now, but he does come out here on Sundays with us, has a ball doing it, and I don't think I could ask for anything better than that.
And like I say, what I was getting to is realistically, even when you say the youth come in grandstand-wise, will you ever be able to put your ass on the grandstand at a racetrack?
Yeah, probably not. Me and Jen and the boys go to a lot of races every year. We really do, but we buy pit passes every race we go to. It's just something I like to be around the cars. The kids like it. Jen really enjoys it too. So, we'll go down and, if we go to the Hot Shoe or we go to Mount Pleasant or we go somewhere, we buy pit passes and we go down and talk to the people. A lot because I know a lot of them guys and I can still talk to them, and we can have fun in the trailer, but it's we go to places too. We've been places that we don't know anybody, but we still go down there because I want to see what they're racing, right?
And that's exactly it. And I use with my wife, she will not watch a NASCAR race, not at all. But and I'll use on the Canadian side. It started with Laird because we're from Sioux, Canada. But now Kinross with our family who races here. And she sat in the grandstands at first at Laird, and I got her into pits one day. She goes, "I'll pay anything extra to go into those pits because it's just talking and meeting people and just the way it is compared to sitting in the grandstands."
Yeah, I've sat in some grandstands in a lot of cool places too, so don't get me wrong there. But I really enjoy how me and Jen and the boys do it a lot of times. We'll go prior to the racing, we'll get into the pits, and we'll do all that stuff. Because I'm not going to lie, even at Kinross, the best view is always in the grandstands. That's where you're going to see the whole track. So we do a lot of that too. We'll do the before and after stuff in the pits, and then we'll sit in the grandstands a lot. But you're exactly right. It's a different feel when you get down. Yeah, there's sometimes you see things you don't want to. Guys are heated, and we all understand that, right? Because it's a big emotional sport. But, it's just the camaraderie usually down in the pits is second to none, right?
And the drivers, and when they come off the track, they say heated or whatever else. But when their race is done, or even they're waiting for the feature or the heats to start. And I don't mean just kids, with adults or whatever. They'll talk to anybody. And that's the thing. And I'm not saying not just Kinross, but at the grassroots level of racing is they'll talk to the fans.
Yeah, for sure. I always said when I raced, and I know for almost everybody that rolls into Kinross, I raced for the kids to stroke my own ego. No one's going to get rich here.
Nope.
This all ego driven. So when that 8 or 9 year old kid comes up and shakes your hand and wants you to sign his shirt, that's what drives us to do this. That's what drove me to do it.
And I have a stepbrother who races in the modified division, and Hot Shoe was really the first one. Is he got postcards made with his picture, and we all joke around. And I'm saying Canadian or American, a lot of us hockey or football, and you practice your autograph. And we were joking. He said for this summer now, he goes, I went home during the winter, I practiced my autograph just because little kids came up to him, and he goes, he works at a steel plant, but he's signing autographs for kids, and it's just it pumps you up.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I did this a long time, and probably some of the best times were when they had autograph sessions and stuff, and the kids would come out and they'd climb in the car, and that's just, and I always say that's given back to the sport too, because we are trying to draw them younger kids in. But that strokes the driver's ego, and that's really what they're all here for.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you June 25th.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
The Kinross Speedpark will host its third event of the 2017 local stock car racing season on Sunday, June the 25th, with qualifying at 1:30 p.m. and racing action at 3 o'clock. On the card for a day that is dubbed Auto Value, Rudyard Auto Sales Fan Appreciation Day, it'll be a full show of modifieds, ABC stock cars, and force owners, while fans will get an extra treat as it'll be double features in the ABC A, ABC B, and force owner divisions as they'll make up their events from back on June 11th. In addition, Intermission will host Kids Nickel Toss on the afternoon. As part of Fan Appreciation Day, general admission to the main grandstands reduced to just $5 for adults, students, and seniors, while kids 11 and under, as always, they are free. To get to Kinross Speedpark, follow the I-75 to exit 378 and take the signs to the Chippewa County Fairgrounds. Well, for more information, you can log online to our official website, www.racekinross.com, or you can like them on Facebook, facebook.com/Kinross Speedpark. We look forward to seeing all the fans backside, trackside, Sunday, June 25th for the Auto Value, Rudyard Auto Sales Fan Appreciation Day at the races.
So we're here with Gerry Liscumb Jr. at the Kinross Speedpark. How are you today, Gerry?
I'm doing good, Jay. Yourself?
Good. Like I say, with the last couple of weeks, the weather's, I guess you say, basically sucked. Have you been happy with the turnout compared to the first couple of weeks?
I mean, you're always happy that with the turnout regardless. You can always have higher expectations, but I think a lot of us have been around this long enough to realize that there's a lot of obstacles with whether it's cloudy, whether people see that a storm's rolling in later in the day. It's unpredictable. It's an unpredictable sport for any promoter to deal with. But I think overall, anytime you can put on a show, and we've nearly now in 2 tries, nearly put 2 full shows in, other than the couple short races. So that's the happy part, is that you're able to get things in, you're able to do your best, and that's one thing we strive to do, is always attempt to put the program in, and so far we've done that. Numbers-wise, you always want to see more. But the big thing is I have no set bar as to what you want to have. You just like to see progress. And as long as you're seeing positive progress, you can be satisfied with that.
And you mentioned like the biggest thing about promoter, and like you say, when you pull in here, like usually it's Saturday for Sunday, and getting ready for everything is the biggest thing about promoter. Do you worry about stuff like that?
I don't. I mean, you watch the weather networks. You try to watch what the trends are because, one, you know how much time and effort the drivers and crews put in their cars, but then in the instance of Kinross, you know how much time the volunteers that make this place tick put in as well. And you want to be rewarded by being able to have a race program. So you don't worry too much. I mean, you make the best of it. We always have our practices on Saturday, race day on Sunday, so a lot of us make a weekend out of it nonetheless. But you just go with the flow, and however the cards lie is what you can deal with.
And like that's what one thing Billy mentioned is volunteers at Kinross. There's no volunteers here. It's more of a family, and family will do anything for anybody, and that's the biggest thing about Kinross, isn't it?
100%. And I think what's kept a lot of us here, when you look, since Billy stopped racing, he was involved with the Surrey Racing Association. I helped him with that. He gave up a position. I took over. He helped me. Terry Joss has been a mainstay. And I think when Mike and Paul said, can you guys help us do this, the big factor was I think it's safe to say we wanted all 3 of us to be here. Each of us don't want to let the other ones down. And as long as we're involved, we're going to be here as a family to support each other and be at a facility we all care about, we all love, and that we want to see be as successful as possible.
I mentioned to you before we started about NASCAR, like say the numbers in the stands and everything else is, and again, price-wise, bring a family out to do something. This weekend you guys have a special, but for having a few tracks in the Michigan area within a couple hours, is it challenging to get fans to watch the sport?
I don't know what the challenge is to maybe getting fans in, because with Kinross, I mean, other than Fair Night Invitational, maybe it is a struggle to get fans at times. But as you said, it's affordable. Our pricing is just $11 for adults, $7 for students and senior, and kids 11 and under are always free. If you look back to when it opened in '96, it's barely changed. It's went up some, but everything does. But it's an affordable, fun family afternoon out at the racetrack, and this weekend even more so. And I'll give a plug: adults, students, seniors, just $5. Kids are free. You can't beat an afternoon of entertainment for that price.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. And after the race, when the races are all done, fans do come into the pits, and Billy and I were talking, and that's the guys. Even if a guy, and I shouldn't say guy, girls too here at Kinross race, they're welcome to the fans. They get to meet the fans and talking to a few different racers where we all grew up. Billy with football or us with hockey is you practice your signature.
Yeah.
But being weekend warriors, people are signing autographs, and like when Billy mentioned is guys aren't used to doing that. But here at Kinross and just grassroots racing overall, they treat the fans like their own when they come into the pits. Eh?
No question, and we encourage that. We try to do a lot at intermission for the kids, whether it's Power Wheels races, nickel toss. We want to build that up because I think us as promoters and or those involved in the track and the drivers all understand those young fans, that's the future of the sport. Whether they're sitting in the grandstand in the future or whether they're driving a car, that's where it needs to begin. And as long as we can continue to filter the youth into the sport in one way or another, the longevity for not only this track but all tracks looks bright.
And that's where when you say about the youth coming in, and I mentioned to Bill when I asked him what was the most exciting part about with Kinross, and I said other than Brandon, because Brandon being up in the flag stand. And that's the biggest thing is as youth you want to get. You have the Manarinos or Jacob Hymanen or Megan Hayes, the late teens or early teens racing here, but got to keep them coming because as we get older, you stop racing, right?
Absolutely, and that's what you want to see. This track in this area has been fortunate. You look, Taylor Babcock, who's now obviously in the Air Force, Dustin Jackson on the Canadian side. You mentioned Hayes, Hymanen, Manarino, Jack Weeman out of Harbor Springs just started last year at 13. It's good to see, and what's even more neat to see is that when a lot of these racers that we've mentioned are second-generation drivers. So there are some that have come in green and maybe their parents have never raced, but a lot of them, they're following in their parents' footsteps, and it makes it unique and it makes it exciting for us and for the fans as well.
And then also, we were when I was talking to Billy, is you have these young kids, but I was in a trailer of actually my brother-in-law's last weekend, and Dennis Ahol, who's been racing for years. They came in, they were talking. Dennis gave them advice, so it's like I say, with Dennis racing for years, giving advice. He'll tell the 14-year-olds, or he'll tell the 40-year-olds or the 30-year-olds. They'll give advice. It's not we're going out there racing against each other, and it's competition, but after they come off the track, they help each other.
It's mentorship, too, when you consider, you look at how Rick Ellis retired, but then came back for the invite last year. Him and Dennis Ayo have been around. Not only were they original owners in this track, but racing-wise, they've been involved in the sport for so long. And I don't think you could get better advice for gentlemen that have raced at so many different facilities. Ontario, Michigan, out of state. They have so much experience, and to see them lending that on, obviously, is awesome for the sport, and it's good to see.
Now, is there a reason why we don't see the super late models here other than the Invitational?
From my perspective, simply numbers. I mean, you look, late model racing in the state of Michigan, in the Twin Saults, whether some would like to hear it or not, and this isn't a slight to the drivers that have the cars, but I think you and I both know, Jay, that that's a handful. There's a handful of independents that have late models or super late models in this area. All you have to do is look through the state of Michigan even. Onaway's brought them in, obviously, for the 4 or 5 races they have this year. But you get to Whittemore, they run limited late models. They run them every 2 weeks. Auto City and Dixie, basically tracks are non-existent, focusing more on outdoor events and EVA destructions. You get to Spartan, which now has actually combined their late models with their ABC stock cars. The Main Event Racing Series, it's declined in numbers as well. So Outlaw Body Super Late Models on the east side of the state and in lower Michigan and northern Michigan, I think, has just went through the cycle. Modifieds have taken over. Now, if you were to look towards Norway and to the west of the UP of Michigan, very successful. But you're not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges when you look at an Outlaw Body Super Late Model dry sump engine to a lot of the template style crate engine program that is successful at Norway and successful in Wisconsin, and their proximity to Wisconsin is a huge benefit. So that would be why. I mean, and to add on to that is we started this thing with 3 divisions. It's built Kinross. It's helped Kinross be successful. And until we position ourselves where we're looking to add a division, it's not fair to the drivers that have supported us the last 3 years to potentially take away from them to add on a division. I think we're very content at this time having the mods A, B, and 4 cylinders, and the Invitational is a different breed. That's why I bring them in.
And I was just going to say, is the Invitational is totally different compared to the rest of the season.
Oh, no question. The Invitational, from sponsorship support to fan support to competitor support, just look at last year, a high of 112 cars in the 11th season running the Invite. It was highly successful, and we're already working hard to make this year even bigger.
Yeah, and we're sitting here in the pits, and when you put 112 cars in this pit, it makes it not a nightmare for you, but it becomes a...
Billy's got it down pat on how to line the pits. He's got this. We get the paint striper from in the Sioux. he can whip this out of Thursday evening before invite. We need to do it fresh so it doesn't wash off. He gets her done, and then we're very strategic in how we pull cars in the pits.
But again, it makes it a fun for any event. When you go to any event, doesn't matter what sport it is, and you have one big event a year, and people look forward to, let's say, seeing the super late models in this area, and that's the weekend they know they can come and watch, right?
Oh, for sure, and you can just see a lot of cars in general. When you can look and see that campground packed and the pit area packed, it has to get everybody excited.
Well, thank you very much, Gerry, and we'll see you June 25th.
I appreciate it, Jay, and just before I let you go, I just want to reiterate, thank all the drivers that continue to support us, and I know I talked a lot about Billy and Terry here tonight, but whether it's yourself doing photos and the many other volunteers that help us, there's a lot to name. I don't want to forget anyone, but that's what makes this place tick, and Mike and Paul Fox allow us to do it, so there's a lot of people that go involved, and I appreciate everything they all do.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the volunteers and the drivers, you wouldn't be sitting here, right?
You got her.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we're here with Terry Joss, the technical director at Kinross Speedway. How are you today, Terry?
Doing pretty good.
I mentioned to Gerry and Billy, everybody here are volunteers, but they don't really say volunteers. They say more of a family. Do you see that way at Kinross?
Yes, more of a family. Everybody gets along really well together out here. We spend a lot of time together, so I guess you could say family.
And when Billy says you, Gerry, and yourself, it's more, you're almost like brothers from another mother, and that's how well you guys get along. And you and Billy also have the snowmobile tie also, right?
Yeah, me and Billy, we pretty much all winter we spend time together, and all summer we spend time together, at various tracks, the I-500 track in the wintertime, summertime at Kinross out here, and I guess pretty much I actually spend more time with Billy than I do my own wife, believe it or not.
And that's why the marriage works so well, right?
The marriage between me and my wife, or me and Billy?
Both, probably.
Yeah. Well, one cooks me dinner, that's all I can say.
And it's not Billy.
Yeah, it's not Billy.
It's not Billy.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the technical side, and we were talking, say, before we started here about the cars of the drivers over time with the growth of changing, and the speeds are so much faster now, and being a technical director, do you need to watch any of that?
Yeah, you have to keep up on it to a pretty good point. Like I said, the speeds are getting faster. The cars are just handling much better. Majority of it's due to the guys that work on their cars. The guys that are here on testing tunes and practicing, working on their cars. They, work 5-6 nights a week on their cars, and on the 7th day they race their cars. They got fast cars. And it's not that they're, the cars that are fast are actually, they abide by the rules and everything. There may be a couple little things that aren't, that are in gray areas, but they're not overlooked. They're just, okay, we'll see what we can do about figuring out what we can do with that. But we still let them race. They're here to race, and we try not to turn anybody away unless it's a major issue that we know that they're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes.
Fast one.
Yeah.
And that's where, with being technical director, like Billy being the flagman, so he's dealing with the drivers on the track. Gerry's dealing with the promoting end, but also the drivers. But with your end, if a guy comes off and they come through tech after the race and that, and you got to check it, and the guy's real pissed off. I shouldn't say guy, a girl can be real pissed off here too at Kinross. And how do you deal with that if someone's like,
if it's something that stems from out on the track surface during the racing time, that boils out. They need to talk to whoever's in charge of that area, and that would be Billy. Inside the pit area is my I guess you would call my zone. I take care of everything in here, and Billy takes care of everything out there, and Gerry kind of Gerry takes care of the PR stuff, and it's best that when they come in and they're mad at somebody about what happened out on the track, I try to calm them down and, and say that you handle that out there with whoever is in charge of that area, and that would be Billy. They don't need to come into the pit area and blowing up at everybody, starting fights and yelling at somebody that they don't even know who they're talking to for no reason.
And that's going back, and I'm not saying with Billy and Gerry, you guys have been around long enough, and I'm not saying age-wise, but been around racing long enough that even if a guy or a woman is pissed off after the race, you know them well enough, and there's respect both ways. So 10 minutes later, after they've calmed down, you can talk about it.
Oh yeah, it's after 10, 15 minutes we've got it's just like nothing ever happened.
And that's the biggest thing about being weekend warriors. It's something
Yeah.
like Billy and I were talking like last night in Berlin with Bush Racing down there, and he's a professional. And people watched. He stormed off, and where the weekend warriors they storm off, but they forget it afterwards. And that's the biggest thing about the grassroots racing.
Yeah, and they come back to the next race, and everything's they're here to race. They just show up, and as if nothing ever happened. It gets pushed back. It's water under the bridge.
Yeah, and they enjoy it, right?
And enjoy it. Like I said, we try to keep a good relationship with all of our racers, and and that's pretty much keeps them coming back. They know that they're treated fairly. They're treated very fairly.
And that stems back with Jerry and Billy saying the volunteers and yourself volunteer, but I mean as a family, but also really when it comes down to it, we use the A-holes or the Manarinos. So you're going from people who have raced 2 or 3 years to people who have raced 40 years. They're also like family because they're willing to help each other. A lot of other sports, you're a competitor as soon as you get into the arena of whatever sport until you leave. Here, if something happens, they help each other, right?
Yeah, everybody. I mean, there's modified teams that help out the 4-cylinder teams. There's 4-cylinder teams that help out the modifieds, and and the same thing with the A and B division cars. There's racers and crew guys that just work. They all work together here. If somebody needs parts, there's guys running all over the place here getting parts from whoever they can get parts from. Guys are donating parts, to keep the cars on the track.
And you don't see a lot of sports. Sometimes I'm saying not you race, but say if you pull in by yourself and you blow a tire, a guy will run over because you pull in with a car and trailer by yourself, but somebody will come and help.
Yeah.
Help you change it because just so that you're here, right?
Yeah. If you show up here and you drive all the way from Ohio and show up here and there's only you and your car and you blow a tire out on track, you pull in the pits, I can guarantee you there's going to be 4 guys standing there with a tire and a jack and getting you back out on the track.
Yeah, and you pat each other afterwards, and that's it.
And it's all good to go.
Well, thank you very much, and hope we enjoy the rest of the season.
Yep, we sure will.
The Kinross Speedpark will host its 3rd event of the 2017 local stock car racing season on Sunday, June the 25th, with qualifying at 1:30 p.m. and racing action at 3 o'clock. On the card, for a day that is dubbed Auto Value, Rudyard Auto Sales Fan Appreciation Day, it'll be a full show of modifieds, ABC stock cars, and 4-cylinders, while fans will get an extra treat as it'll be double features in the ABC A, ABC B, and 4-cylinder divisions as they'll make up their events from back on June 11th. In addition, Intermission will host Kids Nickel Toss on the afternoon. As part of Fan Appreciation Day, general admission to the main grandstands reduced to just $5 for adults, students, and seniors, while kids 11 and under, as always, they are free. To get to Kinross Speedpark, follow the I-75 to exit 378 and take the signs to the Chippewa County Fairgrounds. Well, for more information, you can log online to our official website, www.racekinross.com, or you can like them on Facebook, facebook.com/Kinross Speedpark. We look forward to seeing all the fans backside, trackside, Sunday, June 25th for the Auto Value, Rudyard Auto Sales Fan Appreciation Day at the races. Nobody gets you closer to the action than Rev It Up Racing. For all your short track racing and late model, modified, ABC stock car, street stock, and 4-cylinder divisions, visit revitupracing.net. That's revitupracing.net for all your racing coverage.